you know, we've been working this election for the last several weeks, and it was over yesterday and today. And the way it looks, the Democrats have won the House side of Congress, and then the Senate side is still with the Republicans. But the Democrats now are ready to run, and they said if they did win, they would start some proceedings against Trump immediately. Now, whether they do or not, that is for us to see. Now, one thing we know, we have 2 more years for the presidential in 2020. It's 2018 now, so that gives us 2 years until the next election. Now, Trump says already in his hope chest for that 2020 he has $100 million, which is a lot of money. But one thing, it'll also, I think, prevent or knock out a lot of other people from running against him if he runs in 2020. The next thing, I know Trump is wondering what's in store from him between now and 2020, especially since the Democrats are taking over the House on the vote yesterday. And there are some Democrats that said they were going to start impeachment against him immediately. But generally, from what I understand, impeachment takes about 7 months. And if they're going to start it, they better start moving fast, because the longer this drags out, the closer we'll get to the 2020 election. And if Trump has all the money he says he does, there's no question it's going to prevent a lot of people from running for president. How are you going to beat a man that supposedly has $100 million in his travel case? But all these other things that'll have to come into play are the ones that the private investigator did, mainly investigating the people that worked with Trump, around Trump, if they're going to get any evidence against Trump which would prevent him from running in 2020. Now, I think there must be 8 people involved that were working with him, naturally a lot of them now, including this guy Cohen, Michael Cohen. They all say that they'll testify against Trump. Now, what they can say, we don't know, and we don't have those agreements that were signed, that they all signed with the government. And most of them cut their sentences in half or less. Like, I think Cohen could have gotten 26 years, and I don't know, since he worked out a deal, I know that sentence has been cut way down. But naturally, from what I understand, he has to stick to his testimony about Trump, or that agreement's thrown out the window and the judge doesn't have to look at it, and he can go back to the original sentencing under the Criminal Act, Federal Criminal Act. So, in fact, one federal judge already said that if these people don't stick to the agreements that they signed, that he's throwing this sentence agreement out. It's not binding on nobody. Now, another thing, And Trump could have some different violations in his bag that Trump did, because he was with him for 10 years. And everybody's trying to figure out what is that, or did Trump go to Russia or places like that, but I don't know. From all the newspaper articles that's been going off the last 2 years, basically this Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal have been in the news with Michael Cohen. Now, whether he knows anything else or has any evidence, any other evidence against Trump, I don't know. Michael Cohen supposedly is guilty or charged, and I think he has a guilty plea already signed for campaign finance violations. Supposedly Cohen admitted, and we all know, it's been in the news back and forth, that the payments he arranged for Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal on Trump's behalf were campaign related, because he didn't want that evidence to come out while he was running for president. And he had a night affair with Stormy Daniels several years before, but he didn't want that coming out when he put his hat in the ring for president in 2016. So that's how all this started. So then supposedly she got $130,000 to keep her mouth shut. But the question is, were these expenses and monies paid to these two girls by Michael Cohen, were they campaign finance violations, not personal expenditure, just like here's some money, go fly to Europe, fly France, whatever, and come back. I appreciate, because you went out with me a few times on some dates. And so the prosecutors are going to try to show that these are campaign finance violations. I think when you run a campaign, just like I am or anybody else, you have to put down every penny you spend on the campaign, and then when you file your campaign return with the people in Washington, all that is down. You can't go through an election and put half down or put nothing down, and then what he sent on your paper. Well, there won't be nothing on your paper about these two girls if they should have been down on Trump's paperwork that he's filed or going to file. So the thing that the government's got to prove that these expenses were campaign related, not personal expenses, and were made with the coordination and at the direction of a federal candidate, which was Trump. Because if you remember when we saw TV and everything, to start with, they saw him coming down the steps, he acted like he didn't know nothing about these girls or the money he paid or what.
Yeah.
And if we assume that the prosecutors can substantiate this claim, the payments would have been illegal campaign contributions that exceeded, I assume they exceeded the applicable limits and needed to be reported. That's what I said, they had to be reported. What's more, if Trump knew the payments were campaign related and directed them, as Mr. Cohen alleges, that Trump directed all these payments, then Trump too violated the campaign finance law. That's something for us to think about, and that's all we have for today. Thank you.